the Blessed Martyrs of Drina of the professed sisters of the Congregation of the Daughters of Divine Charity, who lost their lives during World War II.Four were killed when they jumped out of a window in Goražde on 15 December 1941, reportedly to avoid being raped by Chetniks, and the last was killed by the Chetniks in Sjetlina the following week. The 5 nuns were later declared martyrs and beatified by Cardinal Angelo Amato on 24 September 2011. History. Background. On 6 April 1941, Axis forces invaded the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. Poorly equipped and poorly trained, the Royal Yugoslav Army was quickly defeated. The country was then dismembered. The extreme Croat nationalist and fascist anti-Pavlak, who had been in exile in Benito Mussolini's Italy, was appointed Poglavnik of an Ustaše-led Croatian state, the independent state of Croatia. The NDH combined almost all of modern-day Croatia, all of modern-day Bosnia and Herzegovina and parts of modern-day Serbia into an Italian-German quasi-protectorate. NDH authorities, led by the Ustaše militia, subsequently implemented genocidal policies against the Serb, Jewish and Romani population living within the borders of the new state. Ethnic Serbs were persecuted the most because Pavlak and the Ustaše considered them potential turncoats in what they wanted to be an ethnically pure state composed solely of Croats. Racist and anti-Semitic laws were passed, and ethnic Serbs, representing about 30% of the NDH's population of 6.3 million, became targets of large-scale massacres perpetrated by the Ustaše. By mid-1941, these killings reached degrees of brutality that shocked even some Germans. The Cyrillic script was subsequently banned by Croatian authorities. Orthodox Christian church schools were closed, and Serbs were ordered to wear identifying armbands. Mile Budak, the Croatian Minister of Education, is reported to have said that 1/3 of Serbs in the NDH were to be killed, 1/3 were to be expelled, and 1/3 were to be converted to Roman Catholicism. The Ustaše also established numerous concentration camps where thousands of Serbs were mistreated, starved, and murdered. Two resistance movements emerged to combat the NDH and the Axis occupiers: the royalist Serb Chetniks, led by Colonel Draza Mihailović, and the multi-ethnic communist Yugoslav partisans, led by Josip Broz Tito. Jestimir Dančić was a gendarmerie officer prior to the outbreak of World War II. In 1940, he was appointed to lead the gendarmerie detachment in the Yugoslav Royal Palace. During the invasion of Yugoslavia, he was responsible for escorting King Peter II to Nikšić airport as he left the country. Dančić then returned to Belgrade and was in the city when it was occupied by the Germans. He obeyed the summons of Milan Akimović, head of the first Serbian puppet government, to serve in the gendarmerie of the Serbian Quisling state, and did so until mid-August. When news reached him of the Ustaše massacres of Serbs in Bosnia, he sought permission to travel there and escort his family and relatives to safety. In the summer his request was approved, and he traveled via Mihailovic's headquarters at Ravna Gora. Early on, Mihailović designated Dančić as one of 3 men who were to succeed him as leaders of the Chetnik movement in the event of his death or capture. Like Mihailović, Dančić sought to avoid conflict with the Germans and began to pursue a policy of self-defense against the Ustaše and revenge against the Croats and Muslims. In August 1941, Dančić was sent by Mihailović to eastern Bosnia to take command of the Chetnik detachments in the region and bring them under Mihailovic's control. He collected a group of Bosnian Serbs and crossed the Drina River into the NDH, arriving in eastern Bosnia on the 16th of August. In the beginning, his operations were directed primarily against the Ustase and the Bosnian Muslim population of the area. By early September, Danjik had established himself as the leader of all Chetnik groups in eastern Bosnia. Capture of Goražde. In late November 1941, Major Bosko Todorovic reached an agreement with Lieutenant Colonel Castanieri, commander of the Italian garrison in Goražde, regarding the Italian evacuation and handover of the town to the Chetniks. On the 29th of November 1941, the Italians placed Goražde under the control of Danjik's men. The town was under complete Chetnik control by the 1st of December. Upon their arrival, Danjik gave a speech to a group of Serbs, Croats and Bosnian Muslims gathered in the town's main square, which contained references to Greater Serbia and ended with Danjik proclaiming that Serbs and Bosnian Muslims could no longer live together. Following the speech, Chetnik bands spread through the town and began killing, raping, pillaging and torching homes. A significant number of victims were killed on a bridge over the Drina, after which the bodies were dropped into the river. Croatian Home Guard prisoners and NDH officials were immediately executed. Corpses of Muslim civilians were left hanging from trees and lamp posts. As many as several hundred civilians may have been killed in the massacre. Chetnik forces in Bosnia, including those of Danjik, then set about pursuing an anti-Muslim campaign through eastern Bosnia to recompense for the persecution experienced by ethnic Serbs in the NDH. Martyrdom. Danjik's Chetniks entered the town of Pale on the 11th of December. They looted and burnt down the local Roman Catholic convent, Marian Dom, and captured its 5 nuns. The 5 were Julia Ivanisevic, Birchmana Leidniks, Krisina Bojank, Antonia Fabjan and Bernadetta Barnia. That evening, the nuns and some other prisoners were forced to march across the Romanaja mountain range in freezing temperatures and waist-deep snow. The 5 were mocked, insulted and threatened by the captors as they marched. While passing through the village of Sjetlina, 76-year-old Sister Leidniks became exhausted. She was separated from the group and forced to remain behind. The 4 remaining nuns were taken to Goražde on the 15th of December and detained on the 3rd floor of a former Royal Yugoslav Army barracks upon arrival. That evening, a group of Chetniks entered the room in which they were being held and attempted to rape them. The 4 then committed suicide, jumping from the 2nd floor window to avoid being raped. Some sources hold that all 4 survived the suicide attempts and were bayoneted to death by several infuriated Chetnik officers. In any case, the bodies were taken from the barracks and thrown into the Drina River. Sister Leidniks was taken to a forest near Sjetlina by several Chetniks on the 23rd of December, having been told that she would soon be taken to Goražde to be reunited with the other nuns. She was never seen again. One of the Chetniks who emerged from the forest without her was later seen wearing her rosary around his neck. Aftermath and legacy. News of the deaths quickly spread throughout the NDH. In April 1942, Danjik was arrested by the Germans and taken to a prisoner of war camp in German-occupied Poland. He escaped from prison in 1943 and participated in the Warsaw Uprising against the Germans the following year. Danjik was captured by the Red Army in 1945 and extradited to Yugoslavia's new communist authorities, who charged him with war crimes. He was tried, found guilty by a court in Sarajevo and sentenced to death. He was executed by firing squad on the 22nd of August 1947. The 5 nuns were declared martyrs on the 14th of January 2011. Pope Benedict XVI announced the promulgation of decrees of the Congregation for the Causes of Saints. The nuns were beatified by Cardinal Angelo Amato in Sarajevo on 24 September 2011. A non-fiction book about the nuns was written by Croatian author Ante Bakovic, titled Drinski Mucinis. Sister Slavika Buljan, a Bosnian-Croatian nun, writer and poet, wrote Zavjet Klv Lju Potpizan.